Good evening to all of you, and I am Preeta Balakrishnan again. Continuing with my Women Power in Digital Entrepreneurship interview series. Let me quickly introduce myself. I am a women's independence coach, and my vision is to help 100,000 women become self-reliant. And with this, actually, I've started this 30 days interview series, trying to interview people from various walks of life. And today, whom I'm going to be interviewing is a doctor. He is one Mr. Dr. Vakil, and I'll once he joins in, I will introduce him to you. But I also want to let you know as to what is my objective, as to why am I doing so many interviews suddenly. The only objective being, this set of series of interviews that when people see, and especially women, they would be sort of able to take in suggestions, ideas, and actions for themselves on a day-to-day basis. Whether it is challenges that women face, or whether it is various aspects that one needs to look into. It is with these interview series, people will be able to, especially women, they will be able to look at and it'll be like a ready reckoner for them to take in ideas, suggestions, and actions for them to implement on a day-to-day basis. So I'm waiting for doctor to join in so that we can start our discussion. Hi. Ask Anand Agrawal. Thanks for joining in, and I've noticed that you've joined all the interview series. If you have any questions, while Mr. Doctor joins, you're more than welcome to ask. I'm not sure what is your intent in terms of being a part of this discussion, but surely you can go ahead and ask your questions before Doctor joins us. As I was explaining to you, one of the reasons why I'm doing this is basically to help, right? And this is really close to my heart in the sense that it's also based on experiences that I have gone through in life. I was working with corporate in the corporate world, have close to around 20 years of experience in HR, consulting, facilitation, and coaching. And I've worked with quite branded companies, so to say. Like my last stint was with Deloitte. I've worked with Infosys, GE, Ivy Comtech, and Intergraph. And the first 11 years of my full-time exposure, I was in HR. And of course, there was a natural women's break that happened. I have had a baby. I took a break. And I also had to move out through my husband's job, right? At that point of time, I did not work for some time, and when we came back, I was freelancing, coaching and training, then it was time that I felt that I should start doing my own business, and that's when in 2019 I registered my company and started it off, right? And there it is, doctor joining me. Let me add screen. Yes. Hi, doctor. Yeah, as waiting for doctor to join. Yeah. There you are. Good evening, doctor. How are you?
Hi, how are you, Preeta?
Great, doctor. Thank you so much for joining in. I was just waiting for you to join, and as it was taking some time, I was also explaining as to why I'm doing these series. Suddenly it's so many interviews with so many people and from different walks of life. So I was just explaining that to the viewers here. And so for the benefit of everyone, doctor, let me quickly introduce you to everyone. I have, so let me take a minute and do that. And then I'll also talk about my objective and we'll start off. Are you okay with that, doctor?
Sure, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, great. So for all of you who are watching, Dr. I don't know if I'll pronounce this right, but Hormus K. Vakil is a periodontist and implantologist specializing in evidence-based treatment. A recognized mentor of implantology, Dr. Vakil has trained extensively in implantology, cosmetic dentistry, bone grafting, sinus lift, nerve repositioning, and full mouth rehabilitation. It's difficult for me to pronounce these words somehow. He is a practitioner of multiple dental implant systems and exclusively practices oral rehabilitation and implant dentistry. He is currently pursuing his PhD in the field of bone augmentation. And Dr. Vakil has managed his private practice for over 14 years and is a key opinion leader and a mentor to companies such as 3M, Noble Biocare, Sensodyne, Materialize, and Simplant. He's also the director of BOCI. Let me say this right. For me, it's definitely new. Brainmark Oseo Integration Center of India, right? Through which he successfully programs on implantology. And Dr. Vakil has chaired and spoken at various conferences and symposiums in India and abroad. Thank you so much, Doctor, for accepting this invitation.
For calling me in.
Yeah, sure. So, Doctor, let me quickly explain to you as to why I'm doing this, so that you understand too, and also for the viewers there. So, one of the objectives why I'm doing these interview series is for all of them, and especially women, you know, when they look at this video, they get those quick sort of action suggestions and ideas from experienced people like you, leaders like you, in what they need to do in terms of actions or takeaways that they can do and implement in day-to-day life, right? And the topic, as you know, is women power in digital entrepreneurship, right? So we'll get into why you know, the gaps and certain data points that, you know, we've already discussed about this, but we'll try to put in more value you know, in this whole topic, so that at the end of the day, when they look at this, it's also going to go into my course where they're going to be taking certain actions and comments of, okay, what is it that they've learned out of this? What are the suggestions? What are the ideas? And what are the actions they can take away, you know, for them to implement? That's the idea, Doctor. And so if you're comfortable, I'll start off with the first question. Is that okay?
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, Doctor. So, like, apart from one thing that I forgot to mention is I met Doctor actually as we both are part of the Ascentive training of our business coach Maua, who's the India's you know, referral coach. And I must say, Doctor, the unassuming attitude that you have and the kind of accolades that you carry, I think it's really humbling. You know, for me, really, I'm not joking on this, right? Okay, so because you never come across as a person who has all of that. I mean, look at your accolades here. Thank you so much for that attitude, because it makes it easier to, you know, connect with such people. Thanks, Doctor. So my first question is, apart from me knowing you, why do you think this topic is really important for you, Doctor? What makes you, and what made you immediately accept this invitation?
Okay.
You know,
Preeta, I've got a daughter.
okay.
My eldest is a daughter. Okay. And we've all lived in a world where, well, let's say our generation has lived in a world where there is a definite bias, which we do not want that to be transferred to the next generation. And
yes, definitely.
And we can blame a part of this bias to the previous generation above us, and some to our generation as well. But we do not want to pass it on to the next generation. And we should do everything in our power to stop this gender bias at this stage right away, and see that both our sons and daughters have the same future as what we envision for them. So that's where I think I would love to speak on this.
Sure. So, Doctor, I mean, having spoken about sons and daughters, right? And here I would like to actually talk about what is it you think as a father, you know, you need to tell, or people need to tell their sons. You know, this is something that I have asked people in other interviews too. I mean, there is an immediate sort of trigger, you know, or immediately we say a lot of things to our daughters. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. I'm not even a feminist. I'm not even saying that women are better than men and things like that. But there are certain narratives that we carry when it comes to a son and when it comes to a daughter. And how do you think, you know, what should be the narrative, or how do you think a son should, what are the things the son should be told, you know, in your upbringing, in the process of upbringing?
First of all, I think that we carry these stereotypes in our head, which are so biased. For example, I've learned a lot from my daughter, in fact, and my wife, of
Okay.
course. But
Mm,
I learned from where she started growing up, and
mm,
she started avoiding the stereotypes. When we brought her pink clothes, when we brought her
mm,
pink toys, when we got her dolls, she'd say, "No,
mm.
I do like pink, but now enough is enough. I'd like to wear blue." And
Okay.
that this is something that, and it just has come inertly as a parent, that for the
Mm,
girl, let us buy you, and you don't have a choice. You go to a shop and you see
mm,
everything pink for the girl and blue for the boy. There is
mm,
demarcation and there is a gender bias right from there. You have
mm,
the
mm,
cars for the boys, though you drive
mm.
a car, I'm sure my wife drives a car, but there's no car toy for a girl,
Right, right.
isn't it?
While you
So
might think, while you might paint it differently,
yeah,
right? You know, a
yeah,
woman's car to a man's car, you somehow can find out.
correct,
Have you
correct.
noticed that?
Yes, absolutely. Women's cars have less scratches, I presume. Uh,
Very
Many will
sure.
not agree with me, but I think so. And they're cleaner, definitely. But yes, so there is this gender bias that is there all over. Okay.
Mm,
And now, see, I have studied in a predominantly boys' school. I say predominantly because when I was in sixth, we were shocked. When we entered our sixth standard, we had two girls in the class. Until then, we
okay.
had no girls ever in the school. I
Mm,
come from HPS, and
okay.
uh, that was the first gender shock that I had.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Mm,
I was so used to being in a boys' school. My sister was in a total girls' school. We heard of co-ed schools. Our friends did
mm,
study there, but there was a sudden gender bias when we joined in, and
mm,
it all the and the hesitation and the hesitation to mix and the the difficulty in communication starts off right there when
mm,
you divide children even in their school levels for some
mm,
reason,
mm,
you know and I think this sticks. I think we need to get these off them.
mm,
There's also, if you look at the activities that we give children, you will put
mm,
your daughter in a stitching and an art class, and you will try to send your
mm.
son to a cricket class. I have my friend's
Right.
daughter who plays fantastic cricket and plays for the state, and
Mm,
and I have a nephew who does fantastic cross stitch. So
right.
I don't see anything wrong in this, and
Yes.
it should be, we should get past all this man-made
Mm.
stereotypes.
I agree. I agree. While it's a, I think it's a, I don't know what to say. It is going to take time. I mean, because it's not so wired in our brains that this is how it needs to be, and it's also a cultural kind of a backing that is there, and age-old culture that was there. I think earlier our roles were very well defined, right? Earlier women had to do this and a man had to do that, but now, given that all everyone is doing everything, and there isn't any difference between sort of the brain and the brawn question that keeps coming up, right? Now women can equally sort of challenge, because there is more brawn than sorry, there is more brain than brawn.
Right.
You're not really looking at the physical aspect
Yes,
of it,
yes,
and
yes.
that's where the topic of the digital world comes into play, doctor, and that's why I wanted to the women power. I mean, I'm not saying that man should not utilize this power, but given the flexibility that the digital world actually offers to the women, because I mean, we were discussing about this data points, and let me throw in some of the things that I know. Probably you know much more, but the data points actually say that there is a gap. There is a huge gap in terms of, till the managerial level, you have women out there. There isn't any issue. There are a lot of women working, but after some time, at the leadership level, you see that women disappear. In the sense, there is only 0.2% of the population in the C-suite jobs who are women. And if you look at women entrepreneurs, right? India is abysmally low. We are actually third from the bottom after Pakistan and Bangladesh, where somehow women don't take that step towards entrepreneurship. And there is also research that says that in India, this is about India. This is a McKinsey report which says that in South, since for some reason women take those steps more than in the North. I don't know why, or but this is a kind of research that is there. And so there is a gap. I mean, at the leadership level, there is a lot of effort in promoting women, reducing the gap. It's like reduced from 29%, it's 44% today, but still there is a gap. So that's, given that reality, where do you think is the real problem? And what else do you think women need to do to reduce this gap?
Now, rightly said, the digital world and the type of work that can be done today does really not require brawn. In fact, you don't need to really go to the office. So,
Yes.
as much as what is happening right now, except if you're a dentist. So, yeah. So, so they, practically speaking, very idealistically speaking, this gap should have been gone. We should have been living in a world where the women and the men would have the same roles, they would be doing the same work, and would all rise because of merit, right? But it doesn't always happen. We have seen that women put in the equal number of man hours, they put in the equal number of effort. I would say, depending on the sector they are in, they might be even more many. They will be even more talented than men in certain sectors. But when it comes to reaching the frontline leadership roles, when it reaches the frontline leadership roles, it suddenly drops right at the frontline leadership roles. This is the way. That is where the gap starts. It is not during when they start the job. It is when they reach the frontline leadership roles. The gap drops to around 34% of frontline leaders happen to be women. And this even drops when they reach up quite up to their managerial roles, controlling, let's say, about 6 to 7 people reporting to them. Then they have about 12% of drop. And then it goes even further as they reach the C-suite. Now, a lot of people have been interviewed, and I have read a few reports, especially by McKinsey, by DDI, and other Ernst & Young and others. And the whole consensus was that the women never got the right mentorship for the role that was vacant ahead. You see, when you look at these big corporates and they have these huge clubs, inbuilt unseen clubs, men's clubs, or there is this syndicates which are formed, and when there are these, the mentorship starts at an informal level and goes on to pop up a person who may not really deserve what he needs to get. Whereas there would be a woman who does not know where to join in. She may not have a woman mentor to help her. So where is the gap? The gap is in the external mentoring. You may not find the mentoring in your association, in your office, but you must try to find the mentoring outside. So I think the mentors outside is something that we need to look at. Also, if you look at the current millennials who are in for their first leadership roles right now, there is a paradox, as I was telling you earlier, that millennials are very keen to study on the digital platform. They like to get mentored on the digital platform. But on an average of on a study, an average of 66% said that they would like to have a classroom type of education for mentoring. Unfortunately, that is not available while they are on the job. You see, it's difficult. Secondly, when you look at the trainers and the coaches and the mentors, there is a whole discrepancy there as well. The trainers, coaches, and mentors, very few of them are women, unlike you. I mean, you are a woman, but very few in your sphere, and you know that you're for yourself. I know you know the statistics there as well. So the cultural bias which comes in stops them from asking questions, stops them from asking for favors, stops them from actually communicating very clearly. And that's where they lie. Even if they are sure they are up for the job, they look for support and sponsorship from others. This is where I feel the main problem starts.
So what you're saying is, one is, even if they are there at the leadership level, they do not find mentors. I mean, probably they're also hesitant because they're all men around, and they're also probably hesitant to choose a male as a mentor. So you need to go outside that leadership sphere and look for someone else as a
Absolutely.
coach. And that's
Absolutely.
one point. And the other point that you're saying is there are not too many women coaches. So even if you go outside, you have to looking for that
Yeah.
a person who's a woman coach becomes tough. And so probably what you're also hinting at is there should be more and more women coaches.
In fact, the solution to this is a top-down solution. You need to create more trainers and coaches, and then you need to bring it down so that there will be more leaders that will come up slowly. So this is the
Trainers
solution.
and coaches who are women at that level, at the leadership level.
For women. Yes, yes.
And who are women also, right? That's what you were mentioning.
Why not?
Yeah.
This is an undeniable fact that women are from, men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Women are from Venus.
Yeah, and this is an undeniable fact, right? And the comfort zone is only, you will have the comfort zone even if you, we cannot, even if we are in a very surreal world where everything is equal and all that, still there will be certain differences. And when we are in a world with traditions and a lot of baggage that we carry, it's very difficult for someone to just say, no, it doesn't matter, I can party hard and stay late night and have, communicate with everybody, tell my problems to everybody. It becomes a little difficult. And this is where things start becoming difficult for women.
So, it brings me to the other question that only if a woman becomes like a man, in the sense, if you're at the leadership level and if you show abilities of being like a man, of probably being a little more aggressive, being able to, socialize, and only then I'm not sure how much would you be accepted then, even then. But
correct.
It leads me to the question that then do we have to change the way we are and actually behave more like a man rather than being...
That would be counterproductive. In fact,
yes.
The very fact that women are chosen for many of the roles that they do are because they're women.
Yes.
You understand? So the way they think, is different, the way they function is different, and the reason why they're successful is also because they're women. So if you start behaving like a man, then you would be you would just be a part. You would just fit into that wide funnel that is there. In fact, you have a narrower funnel to fit in, and if you can get through that funnel, it is something that you will be better off. But nevertheless, you need to widen your own funnel. So you need to create better frontline leaders at the bottom level to be able to reach the C-suite. That's what I think. And that's where, and the confidence levels have to be boosted, and the confidence to be able to handle, of course, you see, we have to have this understanding. Both women do understand this, but we should have this understanding even with the males in the society. Once you have this understanding, then the acceptance is more. And I'm hoping that the next generation will be this statistics should be totally busted.
Yes.
And we should have a better...
I see that with my daughter, right? I mean, she's very different from probably the way I am or how my mom was. And I don't think they will really care damn, they will just do what they want. And probably the tolerance levels also has reduced, whether it is a man or a woman for that matter. This generation, of course, is a very different generation. My daughter's generation, that's a different discussion altogether. But slightly more, so moving into the angle of digital entrepreneurship, women power in digital. So how do you think this space can really support the woman doctor? How do you think we can leverage the space and take our steps there?
See, as I've told you, as we said, now the brain is more important than the brawn, and then
correct.
From home. And nowadays, for example, most of the companies are, in fact, now if you look at this situation that we are in right now, the COVID situation, COVID-19 situation,
Exactly.
this is the bend in the curve that you need to leverage.
Yes.
This is the actual bend in the curve where now companies have understood the productivity has not decreased in spite of their employees not coming back to their offices. This is the time where they have realized that except for the office politics that used to be prevalent, nothing else has changed. So
Right.
this is the time women should take the advantage. Now they're
Right.
even at the comfort of their home, they can actually take up roles which can bring out their true leadership skills, can bring out all other skills that they can. In fact, this is the time where they need to. But first, they need to understand. They need to reboot themselves. They have to unlearn what their whole system. For that, they really do require mentors and trainers to give them a proper pathway, a flow chart of
Right.
things to do, so that they can. In fact, in the digital sphere is where I envision women to excel, really excel, because because if you look at marketing, digital marketing, women are better designers. Women have a better taste than most men. If you look at retail, and if you look at digital retail or e-retail, I think women can do excellently well. If you look at even for health, even you look at things like what is happening in the healthcare sector. Now everything is going to go for telemedicine. Now
Right.
there will be a doctor. There will be women doctors in Hyderabad or in the cities having gynec consultations with the help of some Anganwadi workers at village level. So they will be, there is going to be a paradigm shift, and this
Yes.
paradigm shift has to be leveraged because of this bend in the curve right now.
So, I mean, I think all of us realize that. I mean, who knew that we'll all be, locked down like this, working from home, doing these Insta lives? Because I see it with my own daughter's teachers, right, who struggle with technology. For them,
Right.
it's difficult to get onto Zoom and do classes over Zoom, but they're doing it. And
Yeah.
there are, of course, people who have not leveraged technology, and that's why some of the people who I was interviewing were saying. Uh, Before COVID and after COVID, the situation has totally changed. Now,
Absolutely.
of course, that's of course a different
Now
discussion. But
India is going to see a boom in the number of women entrepreneurs because now,
uh,
let me be very, let me tell you one thing. Now the common man has understood that the common man, let me be very clear, it's the common man that has understood
right,
that his earning is not going to cut it. He will
right,
need
right.
his women to earn too. And that is when he will be open to her getting into certain spaces where he was not comfortable earlier. So this
Right.
is where you need to take your chance. Because right now, if you have another pandemic like this, or if you have a lockdown, let's say in another 10 years, and if you don't have enough savings, or if you don't have a parallel earning, then it becomes very difficult. So
Correct.
definitely we need to have certain things in place right
So,
now.
so this is one is having certain things in place, and another is quickly leveraging and sort of setting up your systems and everything in the digital world. So it's we can really become our masters in terms of what we want to do. But this is of course a man or a woman thing. I mean, anyone can do that, but more so for a woman because the flexibility part. Where one of the reasons why they are not seen in say a leadership role is because they would like that flexibility, right? Of trying to balance work and home, and especially after you have a kid and everything. So this is a time where you can be in the house at the same time take care of home and office. Yeah, doctor, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you. I think it was just some connection problem. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what I was asking you is, so the flexibility part, right? This is where it helps women to take advantage where, after a point, one of the reasons why they don't continue is they're not able to balance work and home. So with the digital space, you can have your 100% office at home at the same time, take care of home too. And that's where I think men become more open,
Yes.
hopefully, right? That's the,
Yes. Yes.
great. So I'd like to move into another sensitive area, doctor. This is about cyber stalking and the various. Of course, we as women face this, whether you're in an external world or in a digital world, where you need to face this and you need to know how to handle it. So there is a certain way that we handle it outside. But in the digital space also, I have sort of, over a period of time, past 5 to 6 months, I've been facing this, and I've been handling it in my own way. I've like experimented and handled in my own way. What do you think are your views? How do you think one needs to handle this as a women digital entrepreneur? Whether it's a cyber stalking or...
Unfortunately, stalking just doesn't stop at the physical stalking. This is a new thing that's come in, and of course, new for a few years now. But cyber stalking really can lead to a lot of mental turmoil to a woman and can affect her confidence quite a bit. Now, what we need to understand is that there are definitely laws against them. There is a way you can deal with it by getting anti-hacking, anti-cybercrime and places like that. And the first instance that you get, that you would notice that somebody is actually stalking you, cyber stalking you, trying to get in that, you try to block that or just connect with the cybercrime department and inform them. And I'm sure our cybercrime departments in our cities are now absolutely up to this. In fact, I know for sure firsthand with something that happened to us, we could eliminate this problem. And this is definitely a problem which we will have to deal with again. Now, once you're going to take some jobs off men's hands, they will have no other choice.
Right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. No, sure. In the sense, there have been a lot of views around this, and of course, Doctor, you're able to hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So one, of course, about the cyber crime, the policies and everything, and I think it was even Sanjana who was talking about one of the cases that was handled very effectively by the Cyberabad cybercrime police, is what I get to understand. So one is the awareness, because it's we're not even aware that these exist, because these policies, even legal policies are, there's a big lacunae. I mean, cyber policies, I don't think people even know about it. And even if they know, they don't know really what to do or what are the steps one needs to take. So I think we need to get more aware. For example, I don't know clearly what are all the things, that exist in that. And so awareness, and as women entrepreneurs, we need to be extremely cautious and aware of it, right? That's one thing.
For example, when you're going into your training sessions, and if you're doing it on some platforms like Zoom or something like that, then the best way to avoid an uninvited guest there is to have a visitors room where you can actually, scout and you can actually filter them out and get in. And you also have the ability to get somebody off your room. So you have the controls all there. You just need to know the settings and be aware of this. So before you go to, just like this is the first time I'm actually using Insta for interview. So should have done a little research on this. But I'm sure there are some controls here which we can filter out people who are looking at this and filter out people who are not looking at this. So there is definitely a thing that can be done about it. There are things that can be done. We just need to know how to do it and safeguard ourselves.
Sure. I totally understand. So one of the things that I do is block, which I've learned very nicely, and I feel very happy about it. Blocking people, which you can do in the cyber world, but you can't do in the external world for sure. So, so that's definitely an advantage. So the takeaway actually from this is, one is get to be more and more aware about the cyber policies, and get to understand each of the technologies well. I mean, whether it is Zoom or Insta or whatever that you're using, because that becomes more and more prevalent, as we go ahead in this age. Yeah, sure. So what else do you, you've actually already answered this in terms of what do you foresee in the women's power in digital space. You've already said that, it's going to, women are really going to, grow very well in this space.
Now it's there for the taking. It's just for you to take it.
I guess so. So what, any other views in this topic, Doctor? Uh, any other top
Now,
two things that you
now,
think?
now
Uh,
there are these traditional in-office physical jobs that used to be there. For example, HR, and many of course HR has transformed into a digital interviews and digital this thing, but much of the HR can be converted. I think 90% of the HR can be converted into digital. Now people will start. I mean, will start hiring people who are more comfortable working from home to save costs. And
right,
this
right.
is one division that can definitely be taken from. Then there is training, as I've told you. There is training at different levels, and I'm sure, and for different aspects. Even
Mm,
trainings at different levels can be scheduled, can be done with shorter working hours and with
mm,
by women who don't want to really spend those 5 or 8 hours every
mm,
day for 5 days a week. So you can have
mm,
your 4 days a week with the same amount of pay that you will be able to generate. So
right,
there
right.
are lots of, except for real-time coding and real-time testing in the digital field. I think, except for these jobs which require you to clock those hours very consistently
Mm.
and do the work, I think, except for that, I think there will be a lot of new opportunities.
Lot of opportunities that might come up which women can just grab.
Definitely, yes,
That's what you. Sure. So
absolutely.
in fact, if you look at the biggies, all the, whether it is Accentures of the world or whatever, one thing that is happening is even transitioning is of projects is happening online. I mean, so the work has not reduced in any way.
Absolutely.
For example, my husband is extremely busy, in fact, even busier than what he used to be earlier. So,
Correct.
I guess, yeah, as you very rightly said, HR can be done totally digital. And probably, to save cost, people will start saying that 3 days in a week you work from home. Don't come to
Yes.
office because it's
In fact,
accident
uh,
rates will be reduced.
no, it's even more difficult. It's even more expensive to have a person come to the office because of the
Mm.
measures that you need to have with social distancing. So you will
Right,
have
right.
less number of people coming into the office, and you'll have lesser
Mm.
work being done. You'd rather have them sitting home and have 100% attendance.
Yes, yes. So, in fact, it seems the productivity also has increased
Yes, definitely.
multifold after people have started working from home. But it's a different
Absolutely.
aspect that they don't take breaks, and they need to come up with other ways of now, keeping themselves. Yeah, the
The new
socializing
world.
part, and it's a new normal. Sorry.
It's a new world we're getting into. Better get used
Yes,
to it.
yes. I guess so. So that's a different discussion as to what is going to happen after COVID, and how the office spaces and co-working spaces and things like that. We don't know. But
Correct.
yeah, sure. I see what you're saying. So basically, you're saying that huge opportunities are going to get opened up. Just keep our ears open, and just grab them whenever that is,
Of
whether it
the
is
lowest
man or
hanging,
woman. Sure. Sorry.
pick off the lowest hanging fruit as soon as you
Yes, yes.
can.
Sure. Sure, sure. So, Doctor, it's time for you to ask me one question and then we'll end with a lighter note. Is that okay?
Yes, yes, definitely. Okay,
Yeah.
now Preeta, I've known you for some time now, but I'd like to know something as to what gives you the drive to try to empower more women. That's something I would like to know from you. What is
Mhm.
your drive to empower more women?
So my drive, Doctor, is my own experiences, right? I have been in the corporate world. I've worked in good companies, but I had to take a break. One, because of the natural woman. I had a child, and of course, my baby today is 15 years old. So that was the time when I didn't feel like going to office. There are some women who, after 3 months, go back and work, but I took a break for around 18 months. I got back to the corporate world again, but then it was very, very tough for me to balance work and work life and work and home, right? Balancing that was quite a challenge. Then of course I went along with my husband's project outside. We, as a family, we went out, came back, and I was freelancing and coaching, and I tasted entrepreneurship and the flexibility that it gives. And after that, I tried getting back even then, and when I got back, in fact, I was working with Deloitte for some time. And one of the things that did happen is that, one, you're working extremely long hours. And secondly, there is a pay gap. After you get back, you are not given, the same amount of money that you used to earn when you left. And at the same time, you go at 10 a.m. in the morning and come back at 9:30 p.m. in the night. So, might as well. So given all of this, I really felt, we need to do something for people like me. I mean, who probably, is willing to work, but long hours and trying to balance the two was getting very tough. And that's when I took this space. And of course, with Mahua and, getting into that, it sort of gave me that emotional connection as to, why getting into the space. So overall, I think I'm in the right direction, and I hope it takes off in a proper way. So it's like, yeah, that's a little bit of my story, and I feel really close to this. This is really close to my heart. The vision of helping 100,000 women become self-led. I know it sounds big, but
no.
Let's.
That's a dream you need to have. And I always define entrepreneurship as the pursuit of your passion. So you have the passion for it, you pursue it, I'm sure you'll succeed.
Yeah, sure, doctor. Thank you so much. And on a lighter note, doctor, let me ask you, we've been talking a lot about women power and all that, but what would you want to do for your women in your life today after we are done with this interview? This is something I've been asking all of them. It may sound repetitive, but it's okay. So
the women in my life rule me. I should be asking them what they would like to do. Of course, my wife used to work with Ogilvy, that is the advertising agency. She also took a break like you, and finally found that she could balance out the life by teaching in a school. That was also her passion. So she teaches in Vidyaranya now, where my children study, and she's prettier than of course she's prettier than before also, and busier than busier than before as well. Whereas when it comes to my daughter, definitely she is someone who knows exactly what she wants, and I'm sure she'll pursue that and get it. And I will always encourage her.
Sure. But you've not still said as to what would you do for your wife after this interview today. Something special for her.
I should be washing today's vessels and making the dinner.
Oh, wow. Not bad. So thank you so much, Doctor. I think they were very valuable inputs for us to take. And great. So we'll catch up again probably in our next Ascentive meeting. Thanks again, Doctor, for accepting. Bye-bye.
Bye.